Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by VFC Lightweight champion Zack Micklewright. Zack, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've seen better days. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'll fight through it. So I guess I'm doing okay. But anyways, Zack, you recently picked up a win at VFC 44. That's how you claimed the VFC Lightweight title when you defeated Matt Dillanoit via TKO in round 1. Overall, how pleased were you with your performance in the fight?
Well, everybody's their own worst critic, so I feel like from the clips that I saw, I could have done better, and I'm fortunate to have the win, and I'm happy that I got the win, but I feel like I could have been a little more crisp and stuff like that, but all in all, I think I did great.
Mm-hmm. What exactly didn't you like about your performance?
I was a little hesitant, and I caught myself when I was inside the cage, and I remember thinking to myself, just throw. And I don't know, I was a little nervous, so I was a little hesitant with my hands. I would have liked to got started a little bit faster.
Okay. A lot of stuff that I've read online, a lot of comments about your fight, a lot of people were impressed by your performance. I'm just curious, whether it was this fight or fights in the past, do you always expect to go into the fight and have a war, or do you always expect to go into the fight and be able to blow out whoever you're fighting in the first round? Like, going into this fight against Dillanoit, did you expect the fight to be over and get your hand raised in round 1?
No, I never expect that. If I expect that, then I would probably be a lazy bum training.
Okay.
I expect to go 5 rounds, and I just hope for the best. I always prepare for the worst, and I hope for the best. So I expected a war. I expected him to beat me up, and for me to beat him up. And I'm just fortunate that my hand got raised right after the fight in the first round. You know, so no, I don't expect to go in there and win right off the bat, but I'm always happy when it happens.
Right. Now, he was talking a lot of trash before the fight. I'm just curious, was this hyping the fight, or was there some bad blood between the two of you guys?
No, there was no bad blood. He's just a confident guy, and so am I. I feel like cockiness can come across as cocky a lot, but it's just confidence, and I think him and I have the same personality, you know. And I was telling people, I'm going to beat the crap out of this guy. I'm going to beat the crap out of this guy. And deep down inside, did I really think that? I was a little worried. You know, I don't watch tapes. I don't watch YouTube videos of his fights because I know I'm going to beat him. If I knew I was going to beat him, I wouldn't research him, and I wouldn't study his moves and stuff like that. You know,
right.
So to answer your question, there was no bad blood or anything like that. It's just I think he was radiating confidence, and I was doing the same thing. So no, there's no bad blood.
Okay, I see. Now, I interviewed Matt before that fight, and he really didn't know that much about you. He knew, you know, your record. He knew some recent fights that you had. He knew you were on a nice little win streak, but besides that, he didn't really know where you were training out of, didn't really know that you fought in WEC in the past, didn't really know a lot about your history. So I'm just curious, how much did you know about him going into the fight?
I had heard of him before. A friend of mine, Josh Neer, fought him a couple years back and really beat him up, made quick work of him. So I remember him from that because I went to see that fight live in Des Moines. So that's about the only place I'd ever heard from.
Okay, I see. Now, Victory, they've obviously been running shows in the region that you're from for a very long time, but this was the first chance that you got to fight for them. For whatever reason, they never were booking you. So I'm just curious, what was the reason why Victory had never put you on a card? Were there some cards that you could have fought on in the past, but for whatever reason, injury or opponents backing out at the last minute? Like were you ever in talks with Victory in the past?
Well, Ryan and I have kind of had a relationship for a while. I guess you wouldn't call it a relationship, but we knew each other. I had gone to previous fights of a good training partner of mine, Junior Hernandez, and L.C. Davis. I mean, that wasn't the first Victory card that I've been to.
Right.
I'd met Ryan, the promoter, before. But a couple years back, you know, I was fighting in WEC, and then right after WEC, I got deployed because I'm in the military too. So was busy with that, and then I came back, and then I stayed busy fighting in the Quad City area where I'm from, and it just never really came about. We'd always talk, and he'd say, I want you on the card and this and that, but it never really materialized into anything until now. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say it's been a long time coming, but this is just finally when it finally materialized, I guess.
Right. So was it kind of out of the blue when they said, hey, we want you to fight for us, and also on top of fighting for us, we want you to fight in a main event for a belt? Was that out of the blue, or was this something that had been talked about for a while? I know you said that you have a relationship with the promoter, but were you surprised that they offered you a big opportunity like this?
A little bit. I was a little surprised. My last 3 fights have been at 170, and Ryan's kind of been pulling my leg a little bit, saying, go back down to 155, go back down to 155. And I was a little worried about it. But I finally kind of kicked myself in the butt and said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it. And I guess he just happened to be right there when I finally decided to make that choice. He jumped all over the opportunity, and then when he threw that name out there and I did a little research, I jumped all over that opportunity. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have a multiple fight deal with VFC?
No. It was just a one-time bout agreement, but everything worked out great, and I love fighting for them. So I'm definitely going to be back. But I'm not bound to any contracts or anything.
Okay. I see. You've been on win streaks before, and this one that you're on right now is very impressive. You have 4 finishes, 4 by TKO, 3 in the first round. It's very impressive. Post WEC, you've looked very good, and obviously you had that little bit of a layoff, but you've come back very strong. Some people may have expected you to maybe start a little bit slower than you have, but you're still getting the job done. You're still getting finishes. Where does this win streak rank amongst all the other win streaks you've had? I think you've had 2 pretty good ones in your career. Where does this one rank?
Well, I think this one is making the most noise. I don't know if I could rank it, because I had gone undefeated before I went back to back and losing to Palashevsky and Poirier. But I think, it's pretty awesome that I got these 4 wins and against 4 great opponents. A lot of experience between those 4 opponents, good records with the 4 opponents, stuff like that. I think it's definitely a pretty impressive streak, and I think that it can boost me up to that next level.
Definitely. This VFC title obviously means a lot to you, and I know it means a lot to you because you decided to give the belt a ride in the front seat. You put your girlfriend in the back seat, and now the VFC belt is riding shotgun with you. What is it about this title? What does it mean for you to have this title?
It means a lot, especially for my resume. When you're able to write down on your resume or show a picture that depicts you being a champion of a group of fighters, of a big stable of fighters throughout the Midwest. Victory is one of the biggest shows in the Midwest, and to say Zack Micklewright Victory Lightweight champion is a lot better than saying Zack Micklewright fighter out of the Midwest. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's important to me because it gets my name out there, and it lets people know. When people hear Zack Micklewright, they go, "Oh, that's the champ now." You know what I mean? Instead of just, "Oh, that's a tough guy." He's the champ. Sounds a lot better.
Right. Now, I saw LC Davis in your corner. Obviously, you guys are friends, and you go way back to the Militich days. But I'm curious, because he has his own gym now, HD MMA. Are you training out of there, or was he just cornering you for that fight? Because obviously this was a big fight for you.
Actually, he wasn't cornering me, but he was sitting ringside for my fight.
Oh, okay.
When I won, I had him come in there because LC is one of my best friends, and on my road to the WEC and being in the WEC, he was a huge part of my life and my training and everything. I've cornered him for 4 or 5 of his fights, and he's cornered me for a lot of my fights. And I just wanted him to be part of the moment, and share that moment with him. But I have been down to his gym to train and stuff like that. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious, what did he say to you when you were making your walkout? Because I saw that you had a smile on your face. What did he say to you?
Well, usually he just says, it's your time, it's time to shine. Let's go, brother, and stuff like that. Just motivating things. Get out there and get it done, and stuff like that.
Okay.
I can't really remember,
Right.
Everything, your mind's racing at those points. So.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. Now, where are you training at currently? What's your home gym?
I train in Bettendorf, Iowa at Militich Fighting Systems.
Okay. Who exactly is there nowadays? Who are some of the fighters and who are some of the coaches? I know that Barb Honchak is out there doing some great things, but besides her and you, I don't really know too many fighters that are there now. Obviously, Pat Militich is doing commentary, and he's training law enforcement and military. He's got a lot of stuff, and he's not really a part of the gym that much anymore. Who exactly is there?
Well, Pat is still a pretty big part of the gym. He's there quite often.
Okay.
Helping with us and stuff like that, and he helped knit for me on occasion and stuff, when he can for this fight and stuff like that. And then Junior Hernandez, he's a former UFC fighter, and he actually fought in the co-main event the same night that I fought this weekend. There's also Eric Sheldon, who's a RFA veteran, and he's a really tough 125-pounder, and he's actually fighting coming up soon at 135. And then we got a couple really tough amateurs. I should have wrote down all the plugs that I was going to name off.
Right.
We got quite a few really talented fighters from the Quad Cities there.
Now, this fight against Illinois was billed as Nebraska versus Iowa. Now, I'm not from Nebraska or Iowa, so I don't know if there's a rivalry or if it does exist or doesn't exist. Now, since it was billed that way, that's what they were selling to the people. So I'm just curious, is there a rivalry when two guys, one from Iowa and one from Nebraska, fight each other?
Not for me. No, not at all. But there is a little bit. You always want to represent where you're from, so when I come out and I say Iowa baby and like go Iowa and stuff like that, I'm representing where I'm from, and I definitely want to beat the other guy that's from somewhere else, and of course in college football there's a huge rivalry, so you always got to attach that to fighting a guy from Nebraska, because we're kind of a rival team now that we're both in the Big Ten.
Right.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a rivalry, but for me, no.
Okay. Victory put out a post on Facebook, and I'm sure it's on Twitter as well. They were asking the fans who they wanted to see you fight next, and the only name that's thrown out there is Dakota Cochran. That's the fight that a lot of people want to see. Some people have said, hey, I was really impressed with Zack Micklewright in his last fight. I'll pay to see him fight anybody, but the only name that has been mentioned is Dakota Cochran. Is that a fight that interests you?
I don't really know. I haven't seen a whole lot of Dakota Cochran. I guess I have some studying to do, but I'll take all comers, as long as they can make weight. They can fight me for my belt. Was
that a dig at Illinois since he didn't make weight?
Not necessarily. Well, yes. Okay. Yeah, it was a little bit of a dig at Illinois for that. But it's become a problem lately. Making weight has become a pretty big problem lately in MMA, and it kind of makes me mad. There was a show in the Quad Cities where a couple fighters missed weight by a tremendous amount of weight, an embarrassing amount of weight, and it makes me mad. And you see Nate Diaz miss weight by 5 pounds in the UFC this weekend. It's embarrassing, and people should be ashamed of that. And I have come very close to missing weight, but I haven't yet. And people need to work a little harder. I mean, there's no reason you should miss weight if you know about a fight 10 weeks ahead of time or 12 weeks ahead of time. You should not be missing weight. You should have it on point.
Right. Now, did you get 10%, 20% of his purse? Did you get anything because of?
Yeah, I got some of his purse. We made an agreement. It wasn't necessarily a percentage of his purse or anything of that. It was just an agreement that we both made.
Is that a good rule to have 10% or 20% of the guy who doesn't make weight go to his opponent? Should it be more? Should there be a stricter penalty? What should we do for a guy who doesn't make weight? Because yes, there's a lot of times where that comes back to haunt the guy who didn't make weight. There's been a lot of performances like Nate Diaz, for example. There was, I guess, some bad karma there, and he didn't have a good performance at all. But then we've seen a bunch of fighters who come in 3 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever it may be, over and have a great performance, and because they have a lot more energy than someone, because maybe they might have got down to, like, let's say they're fighting at 155, 157, and they could have probably pressed a little bit harder and got down to 156 to make the 1 pound limit, 1 pound above 155 limit, but they chose not to, and that really helps them, have a little bit more gas. Do you think the penalties should be more stricter when guys miss weight?
Yes, I do. I think that the 20%, that's great. That's great for a penalization, but I think that when things like that happen, that they should have to hold out on replenishing their body, or
right.
Okay, well, if weigh-ins are at 5 o'clock and you miss weight by 4 pounds, then you shouldn't be able to replenish. You should stay at weight for a couple more hours. Maybe they shouldn't be able to replenish until like 9 o'clock at night or something like that. Or
right.
maybe they should come in the day of the fight at 165 or something. Because for example, if you fight at 155, I'm sure that most high-level fighters come into the fight around 175 or higher, coming into
right.
the fight, gaining 20 pounds and coming into the fight at a higher weight. Well, if they miss weight by 5 pounds and they come in 20 pounds heavier, so they're 170 or 180 or 185, well, maybe since they miss weight, they should only be able to come in at 165 on fight day. Like, say, 165 at 6 o'clock at night on fight day, and then they can replenish or something like that, because you're right. Like, maybe they didn't go that extra mile and cut that extra 2 pounds because they knew it was gonna draw down on their gas tank.
Right.
So me making weight, I go the extra mile and I make the weight, and it brings me down a little bit, but my guy's not brought down, and then he wins the decision because he missed weight. And now look at my record. Like, what did that do to my career?
Right.
I lost the fight. What if I was one fight away from getting to the UFC or something like that? Right. You know what I mean? Or one fight
right.
away from the title.
Right.
And now I got this loss. Now it brings me back a notch. That's a hard pill to swallow when on weigh-in day you're like, okay, well, I'll just take 20% of this purse and that's it.
Right.
Well, it's your career you're talking about if you're losing that fight because this guy didn't want to go the extra mile.
Right. It happened to L.C. Davis. It happened to your friend. He fought Ryan Roberts.
I wasn't going to name drop and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it was for victory, and it's unfortunate that happened, and it's not the promoter's fault or anything like that happened. But yeah, it happened to LC in victory. That's where it really hit home to me, and that's why I'm so mad about it and passionate about that.
Right. You basically explain the situation without names, because that's exactly what happened. He was one fight away from getting into the UFC, and that just completely changed the course of everything. Lost a very close decision, and Ryan Roberts was overweight. So it's a very strange thing. And you brought up a good point, because we've seen so many guys who weigh in, let's say they're fighting at 155, since that's the example we've been going with. The promoter or the manager, whoever is speaking about the situation, always says, oh yeah, he got down to 157, but he couldn't get that extra weight off. But then when he weighs in, he's 162 or he's 163. This isn't fair at all.
Yeah, it's bogus, and that kind of happened a little bit in my fight. The promoter called me and said, hey, this guy is 158 and a half, and it was like 10:30 in the morning. And, he probably didn't see him step on the scale, but that's what Delanoy was telling him, I'm 158 and a half. And then when I get to weigh-ins, it said that he weighed 159. So it's only a half-pound difference, but why were you lying at 10:30 in the morning? Weigh-ins were at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or something. Well, why were you lying at 10:30 in the morning, and then you're going to come in heavy 4.5 hours later? You had 4.5 hours to cut 2.5 pounds. Why couldn't you have done that?
Right. Right. Now, I've never fought and I've never cut weight, so I don't know what the deal is. But you've said you've had some close calls here where there was a good chance you wouldn't have made weight, but you're able to pull through and make the weight. When do you usually know that you're in trouble? When do you usually know that there's a chance that you might not make weight? Is it when those last pounds aren't coming off? Is it even before that? Is when you wake up the day that you have to cut? What exactly? When exactly does it happen? When you're like, all right, I need to get serious now.
For me, it was the progression throughout weigh-in day. I tried this big crazy weight cut sodium load thing years ago, and it didn't work out as good as I expected it to. And I had a lot of weight to cut the day of, and I wasn't ready for it. I mean, I guess I was ready for it, but I didn't plan for it to happen. And it was time constraints for me that didn't allow me to cut the weight. And then once I didn't make the time limit, then it messed me up mentally, and it's a lot of things that go into it. It was a long time ago, so I don't really exactly remember, but I missed weight initially when I fought Dustin Poirier by like a pound or something, and I had to go cut the weight. And going back after weigh-ins, it was embarrassing for one to not make weight at the live weigh-ins, and then I had to go back and cut the weight, and then that was just like mentally debilitating. It was just an overwhelming thing, and having to stay at weight for an extra hour and be miserable. It was a lot of things. I don't really know where it went wrong, but it was definitely the time that messed me up. I should have worked harder or something.
Right. Now, I'm just curious. I think you said it earlier, but I forgot the number you said. How much do you weigh when you're just walking around in everyday life, and how hard is it for you to make 155?
It was actually very easy this time. When I took the fight, I was almost 200 pounds. But like I said, I had been fighting at 170, so I was trying to stay a little heavy.
Right.
But probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was walking around at about 180, maybe. And then I just slowly tapered down to 155 on weigh-in. And then I think when I fought, I was probably about 175.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you have the VFC Lightweight title, so if you're going to fight for VFC, I would imagine that you'd be fighting at lightweight, but have you closed the door on 170, or are you still open to fighting at that weight class?
I don't know. It would all depend on the fight. If it was a short notice fight and it was in a big promotion, you can probably bet that I would fight at 170, but if it's a fight that's 8 weeks away, I'm going to want to fight at 155,
Right.
If I'm ready for it, then I'm definitely going to take a fight at 155 over 170 now.
Right. Now, when you say big promotion, what do you mean by that? Because there's a lot of people out there who have a very different definition from the person on their left of what a big show is. Some people think a big show is just the UFC. Some people think it's just the UFC and Bellator. Some people think it's the UFC, Bellator, and World Series of Fighting. When you say big promotion, what shows are you talking about?
Mostly just the UFC. Bellator is also a really big promotion too, but that's something that probably wouldn't come at a short notice fight. Bellator's got a pretty big roster for the amount of shows that they have for the next year coming out. So I doubt that I would jump on a short notice fight with Bellator at 170 because they have so many 170 fighters already, or so many fighters in general already. Mm-hmm. So the likelihood of that happening in Bellator wouldn't be very high. So I guess I would just be talking about UFC.
Okay. But let's say, forget about short notice. Let's say that they're just offering you a contract. Are you open to Bellator and World Series of Fighting? Or, I mean, obviously you fought under the Zuffa umbrella once before when you fought in WEC, and I guess in a roundabout way you have unfinished business there. You had a win, and then you had 2 losses, but then WEC, they merged with UFC, so you didn't get to continue to fight on there. So are you open to fighting for some of those other shows, or is it just the UFC, and if it's not the UFC, just keep defending this belt and victory? No,
I'm definitely open to anything, and it doesn't have to just be Bellator World Series of Fighting. If that ONE FC calls,
right,
you can bet that I'll get on that. I'll fight overseas. You know,
right.
I'm open to anything, really. Yeah, I'm open to anything.
Right. Now, what is it about ONE FC? Because a lot of the American guys are really drawn to that. A lot of the guys that I talk to who are fighting on the regional circuit right now, they really want to fight for ONE FC. Is it the rules because they have the soccer kicks and the strikes to a down an opponent? Is it that, or is it just the travel? Because they're going to all these countries that you don't really think of when you think MMA. You know, the countries that you think of MMA are the U.S., Canada, Brazil, Japan. Those are the main countries, but now they're going to Indonesia and they're going to the Philippines. They're going to all these countries in parts of the world that, you know, MMA is not that really big, and they're trying to grow the market. So is it the travel, or is it the rules, or is it a mixture of both? You know, what attracts you to ONE FC?
I think it's just something new. You know, going overseas is really cool, and you know, pride was always a big one. Going to Japan to fight, so the traveling is the biggest thing for me. The rules is a little bit scary. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
Getting soccer kicked in the head doesn't sound fun.
Right.
But I would like to soccer kick somebody in the head. No,
right.
I'm definitely open to that challenge.
Right.
So
right.
The rules isn't a big thing, but definitely traveling would be great.
Is that one of your main goals in this portion of your career, is to get some international fights? Because looking at your record, you've never fought out of the United States. Is that something that's high on your list of to-dos in your MMA career?
No, it's not necessarily important to me. No,
Okay.
I just want to fight. I fight because I love doing it, and I don't fight to put food on the table and to do things like that. The bonuses are great, you know. Fighting is like a bonus to me. It's just something that I love to do. Mm-hmm. So I just try to enjoy it the most that I can. So traveling isn't a big thing. I just want to fight. I just want to win fights and make people happy, and it excites me when I hear that people like to watch me fight, you know.
Right. Now, who's more dangerous of the two guys? One guy who has to fight because this is the only way he can make a living and this is all that he knows how to do. Like, you know, he doesn't really have any options except fighting. Or a guy like you who's doing it for the love and I guess in a roundabout way, a hobby, so to speak, because, you know, this isn't your main source of income. You have other ways to make money. Who's more dangerous, the guy who's doing it for love or the guy who's doing it because he has to do it?
I think it's the guy who's doing it for love. I've been in that pickle where fighting is the only way that I'm paying my bills, and I got hospital bills and they got to get paid for, and you kind of lose sight of the fact that fighting is something that you want to do instead of something that you have to do. You know, and when you got bills piling up and this fight's coming up in 3 weeks, you're like, man, I can't wait to get this money. You know, I can't wait to pay these bills off, and I can't wait to get this weight off my shoulders. That's what the fight becomes, is a day to pay your bills instead of a day to soak in the victory and really soak in the experience of fighting and cutting the weight and making people happy by putting on a good show. You know, now when I go in there to fight and I don't have those problems, and I go in there and I take care of business, and I go in there and I swing for the fences and I let it all hang out, and then at the end of it, then I can take a big deep breath and say, that was awesome. You know, that was incredible. But let's do it again. When's the next one? You know,
right?
Instead of finally it's over. Now I can pay these bills.
Right. Now, since you've come back to the sport, you fought once in 2013 and you fought twice this year. What's a good amount of fights for you in a year? Like, you know, ample training time and just, you know, being able to recover. What's a good amount of fights for you? What's a realistic amount of fights that in 2015 you would like to have?
I want to stay pretty busy. I want to get right back in there as soon as possible. So I want to fight again before March, and then probably 2 or 3 more times. So I would say about 4 times in 2015 would be perfect for me. 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, Zach, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans? Please friend me on Facebook, watch my fights.
help me help you. If you want to see me fight, jump all over Facebook. Put a bug in Dana's ear, put a bug in Joe Silva's ear, Sean Shelby. Let them know that you want to see me fight. As far as sponsors, I'd like to thank Title MMA. First and foremost, they're a huge sponsor of mine. They've helped me out in my last 4 fights tremendously. I'd like to thank all my teammates and my coaches at Militich, Gravity Fitness. Junior Hernandez, I owe a big shout out to. He helped me with coaching, dieting, everything. Fit Fridge. Who else? QC Promo Pros, Marco Rivera, thanks a lot. Ryan Stoddard, Victory Fighting, and Matt DeWild. He's the witch doctor. He helped me stay healthy for this fight. Mark Small at Small Chiropractic, kept my spine in line. And that's all I can think of right now. And thank you for this interview.
Sure, no problem, Zach. Really appreciate your time, and once again, congratulations on capturing the VFC Lightweight title.
All right, thanks, sir. I appreciate it.